The motive for the perpetrator: the suicide bombing at the Astanaanyar police Bandung, Indonesia. The suicide bombing that occurred at the Astanaanyar police, Bandung City on December 7, 2022 at around 08:20 WIB adds to the long list of bomb explosion incidents as a threat to terrorism in Indonesia. Summarizing data from various sources, at least 30 times have occurred during the reform era, both by suicide and other means. The targets, not only business centers, but also to places of worship and state institutions. In the Soekarno era, according to A.M. Hendra Priyono in his book, From Terrorism to the TNI Polri Conflict, it was recorded that there were only 2 bombings, but the target was the president. Meanwhile, in the New Order era, only 5 times occurred. Ibrahim was carried out in Magelang targeting the Borobudur temple stone statue. The bombing is indeed one of the military theories. But that doesn't mean the military can do it. The goal is clearly to disrupt public order with terror, which results in hysterical mass. The motive must be further investigated. In the past, almost everything was successfully revealed. We all really hope that our nation's leaders can realize their responsibility to protect all Indonesian people, wrote Hendra Priyono. There are a number of main things that need to be analyzed. First, the quality of bombs in general, whether traditional assembled or technologically advanced assembled products, such as TNTs that use detonators. If it's a traditional assembled, then analysis can lead to actors from the lower middle class whose chronology of the device so far needs to be a concern, wrote Hendra Priyono in his book. If the type is a manufacturer, then maybe we can also look at the experience of France after Algeria decolonialization in 1962. The culprit was found by a soldier who was not willing to just ignore Algeria by de Gaulle, the former head of Bin Laden. Second, modus operandi. Is it in one place, spread? And is it successive or relatively simultaneous? If so, the analysis was carried out by one person, small group, or branches in various regions in Indonesia. Third, the goal estimate. The raid is analogous to the consequences it causes. If the result is a conflict that destroys Indonesia, then the analysis is clearly on the group that wants to destroy the existence of Indonesian unity. Of course, it will fall to separatist groups. If the result is the success of coercion of the will of a group to dominate other groups, then return to the chronology of observations in the intelligence file, he continued. Fourth, all figures suspected of having to be monitored for their communication in various ways before they have finished consolidating. Monitoring results must be digested carefully according to the sequences of intelligence cycles in effect, so that all information processed becomes highly trustworthy to be submitted to the crisis center. In today's reform era and the nature of democracy, it is impossible for all the results of this work to be followed up without a political umbrella to legalize it, so that all steps do not come out of the paradigm of democracy and universal human rights that defend itself, wrote Hendra Priyono again in his book. When the negative situation drags on, the crisis center must think about implementing a local civil emergency in certain places that are deemed necessary. The crisis center consists of authorities, executives, legislatures that are also supported by judiciary. In this case, the authority, legality, and qualifications of the investigators are needed, including to access various data in classified confidential intelligence documents in the bureaucracy and related government organizations. In dealing with terrorism, the government must also be firm in giving punishments, such as the death penalty or life sentence. This method has been carried out by a number of countries and has provided effective results. Germany's left-wing terrorist group, Baader Meinhof, which has carried out several bombings and killings, could be crushed after a German court sentenced key leaders, including Andreas Baader and Ulrich Meinhof. According to Hendra, the death penalty method or life imprisonment in many ways will prevent other terrorist groups who may be planning similar actions in the future. Second, a combination of severe punishments with rewards for release of charges or reduced sentences. In many ways, this will make the perpetrators confused. Even though the perpetrators of the bombing are a team, the integrity of each individual cannot be the same. Like other working teams in various fields. Of course, there are some of them who become motorbikes and some who only act as followers. Those who are followers are usually easier to change their stance when faced with more favorable concessions, wrote Hendra, citing the 2000 Christmas Eve bombing case. If that is done, he is optimistic that the process of disclosing the bombing case will not take long. So far, said Hendra, the performance of the bombing task force and the Special Detachment 88 anti-terror has been very good. Launching anti-terror operations using the counter-operation method. Using former terrorists who have been aware and can be trusted to pursue and withdraw their friends following in their footsteps, returning to a real nature. However, leaks in deradicalization sometimes occur due to one or another. Water Setyawan, former terrorism convicts, again carried out terror until he was shot in a police raid in Bekasi in August 2009 in the early hours of the morning. The suicide bomber at the Astanaanyar police headquarters, said National Police Chief General Listio Sigit Prabowo, was a recidivist in the Sisendo pot bomb case, West Java. In the suicide bombing incident at the Astanaanyar police headquarters, the perpetrator was Agus Sujatno or Agus Muslim, a former convict of the Sisendo pot bomb case, West Java in 2017. The perpetrator was detained for 4 years in Nusa Kambangan and released in October 2021. According to the National Police Chief, Agus is a former prisoner who is difficult to deradicalize so that his status is still red. So the deradicalization process requires different techniques and tactics because the person concerned is still difficult to talk to, tends to avoid, even though he has carried out activities. After being released from Nusa Kambangan, the police have investigated it. The perpetrators are also affiliated with the Jamaah Ansharut Dala, Bandung or West Java network, said Listio Sigit on December 7, 2022. As for the type of bomb used by the perpetrators, added the West Java police chief, Inspector General Santana is still in the process of further identification. Projectiles from the bomb explosion are suspected to be in the form of wall nails to umbrella nails. In carrying out the action, the perpetrator carried 2 bombs. One stuck to the body and another bomb had not been detonated and had been successfully tamed. The one bomb found was later disposal by members of Gegana Brimob by detonating it in a safe place, said Santana as quoted by Antara. The perpetrator came to the Astanaanyar police station using a blue motorbike parked outside the Polsek. On the front of the motorbike, covering the attached license plate of the paper that reads KUHP equals Law of Surik, Kafir Parangi, the law enforcers of Satan QS 929. The perpetrator then entered the police area when the officer was having an apple in the morning. Had pointed a knife to make several members avoid it. After that, there was an explosion. From a video circulating on social media on Wednesday, 7/12 morning, the perpetrator's body was scattered. As a result of the explosion, 11 people became victims. One of them, namely Aibda Agus Sapian, died, Santana emphasized.